Today's recipe calls for some good canned tomatoes. We're gonna make a homemade tomato sauce. Nothing beats a good homemade sauce. So with that said, let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is small dice one medium-sized yellow onion. The first thing you're going to do is cut off the top, the opposite end of the root, and then you're going to cut your onion right in half. Once you get it cut in half, you're going to peel both sides of your onion to get all that skin off. Now that you have both sides of your onion peeled, you're going to take the tip of your chef's knife and you're going to cut segments that are anywhere from 1/8 to 1/4 inch thickness. You're going to cut from side to side, ensuring that you don't cut all the way through. On the back side, where the root part is, we're going to leave the root on. This way it'll keep our onion together, which will make it a lot easier to small dice it. Now that you have your segments made, we're going to start to cut the opposite way of what we just did. So you're going to cut from the top to the root of your onion, making 1/4 inch cuts to make that little small dice. Now that you have your onion small diced, we're going to start to work on our garlic. I used 5 medium to large size garlic cloves. You can do more or less if you choose. And once you get your garlic peeled, you can cut it into slices so you don't have to mince it, or you can also use a garlic press to make it a whole lot easier. Once you have your garlic peeled, you're going to cut off the root end of all of your garlic cloves. I think the best way to get minced garlic is to treat it like we did with our onion, where we cut the small segments and then cut the opposite way to get that really fine minced garlic. You're going to run through and do this for all of your garlic, and then we'll really mince it later. Now that you have roughly minced your garlic, we're going to start to really mince it so we get those fine small pieces. You're going to put your ball catcher on top of your blade towards the tip of your knife, and you're going to rock it back and forth from side to side and front to back, pushing your garlic into a pile so you can repeat the same motion over and over again till you get that fine garlic. The last and final thing that we need to do before we start to make our tomato sauce is chiffonade our basil. I used 9 basil leaves ranging in size from medium to large, and you're going to start to stack your basil leaves to make a sandwich. You're going to start with the biggest piece on the bottom and go smaller as you build your tower. This way the larger piece of basil will engulf and make it a whole lot easier to roll up all of the basil at one time. There's no right or wrong way to roll up your basil. I find it easiest to start at the top or the tip of the leaf and roll towards the base where it's nice and thick. Once you have it rolled up nice and tight in that cylinder, you're going to grab your knife and you're going to cut your basil into 1/4 inch pieces of basil confetti. You want to ensure that you use a really sharp knife for this because we don't want to bruise our basil too much, which will in turn make our tomato sauce a bit bitter. In the end, this is what your basil should look like. If it's a bit too long for you, you can make a pile or a little stack and give it a few rough chops to make it into smaller pieces. This way it's spread out throughout your entire pot of tomato sauce. The next thing you're going to do is grab a large saucepan and you're going to throw it over medium to high heat, and you're going to add about 2 to 3 tablespoons of good olive oil to your pot. We're going to let our oil heat up a bit before we start to add our onion. Now that our oil is nice and hot, we're going to saute our onion for about 5 to 6 minutes or until it becomes nice and translucent in color. And of course, you're going to add a small pinch of salt because you need to season as you go. And you're going to give your pot the occasional stir to prevent anything from caramelizing. Now that you've started sauteing your onions, the next thing we need to do is get our tomatoes ready. So in a large mixing bowl, you're going to pour in 2 cans of your favorite whole peeled tomatoes. Each can should be 28 ounces or 749 grams worth of whole peeled tomatoes. I went with certified San Marzano tomatoes. If you're going to use these type of tomatoes, you need to ensure that they're certified and they come from Italy, so that you're not getting ripped off buying name brand stuff that's not certified. Once you have your tomatoes in your bowl, you're going to start to crush them up with your ball catchers, and you're going to break them up into small pieces as best as possible. You're not gonna get a smooth tomato sauce doing this by hand, so you can use a food mill, but I don't have one. That's why I'm using my built-in crushers. If you don't want to use your hands, you can use a potato masher or a slotted spoon to achieve the same goal. But having small chunks of tomato like we do gives it that rustic feel, in my opinion. Now that you've crushed all of your tomatoes to the best of your ability, you're gonna grab a small bit of water and rinse out your cans to ensure that you're not leaving any of that good stuff behind. Now that your onions are nice and translucent like so, the next thing we're going to add to our large pot is a 1/4 cup or 58 grams of tomato paste. We're going to saute our tomato paste to get more of a deep, rich, robust tomato flavor. This is the same exact method that we did in our Rigatoni Alla Vodka video. You're going to cook your tomato paste for about 5 to 6 minutes, or until it becomes that dark, rich red color, almost like a brick. And sauteing the tomato paste will caramelize some of the natural sugars that it holds to give our tomato sauce an even better flavor. In the end, this is what your tomato paste should look like. Once it's that nice dark red color, you're going to move your tomato paste and your onions to one side of your pan, and you're going to add your garlic, and you're going to saute your garlic for about a minute or two, or until it becomes nice and fragrant in smell. And you're going to do your best to ensure that you don't commingle your tomato paste and your garlic right now. This way we can get a nice saute on the garlic, because once you mix the two, there's no way you can get those two apart. Now that you have a nice saute on your garlic, you're going to mix all 3 of the ingredients together before we add our tomatoes to our pot. I tried to scoop mine in so I didn't get too much splashback, but it's kind of inevitable. So you're going to pour all of your tomatoes into your pot, giving everything a quick stir to break up that tomato paste so it dissolves into your tomato juices. Once you have all of your tomatoes in your pot, don't hesitate to grab a rubber spatula and scrape in all that expensive tomato into your pot, because you don't want to waste any of your ingredients, and it'll make it a whole lot easier to clean later on. Now that you have all of your tomatoes in your pot, you can grab a slotted spoon and start to smash any of the chunks against the side of the pot, the ones that you weren't able to get with your little mitts. And a little pro tip for you, ensure that you use a wooden spoon when you go to make your tomato sauce, because tomatoes have a ton of acid in them, and if you use a metal spoon, the acid will start to wear on the metal spoon, which in turn will make your tomato sauce taste really gross. There's no reason to waste all that hard work and those good ingredients for nothing. Now that your heart is content with smashing your tomatoes that are in your pot, you're gonna bring your tomato sauce up to a simmer. Now that our tomato sauce has come to a simmer, we're gonna add all of our basil leaves to our pot and give it a quick stir to incorporate the basil into our tomato sauce. This way it'll start to slowly break down and add a ton of flavor to our pot. Now that you've stirred everything together, you're gonna turn your heat down to a low medium, and you're gonna throw a lid on top of your tomato sauce. You're gonna leave a small crack on one side. This will help release a lot of the steam that's gonna be created, which will help prevent any overflow of our sauce. Once you have your lid on top of your sauce, you're gonna set a timer, and we're gonna cook our tomato sauce for a full hour. This way it'll become nice and robust in flavor and slowly start to thicken up. Throughout that full hour of cooking, you're gonna occasionally give your pot a quick stir to ensure that nothing is sticking and burning to the bottom of your pot. And while you're at it, you can smash some more tomatoes if you choose. Now that your timer has gone off, you're going to check your tomato sauce to see if it's the desired thickness of your choice. You can go until it's really thick or cook for less time so it's more thin. It's really up to you on what you're looking for. And just a pro tip as well, you need to stir your tomato sauce to see how thick it is, because a lot of the water is going to be on the top of your sauce. So giving it a quick stir will show what your sauce viscosity actually looks like. If your sauce gets a little too thick for your liking, all you need to do is add a small splash of water until it becomes the desired thickness of your choice. Now that your tomato sauce is done, you're going to give it a quick taste and adjust the seasoning as needed with some salt and pepper. And it's been cooking for a full hour, so it shouldn't be too acidic, but if it's too acidic for you, you can add a few pinches of granulated white sugar to help balance it out. For me, it was just perfect, so all I needed to do was season it with some salt and pepper. Now that you've seasoned it to your liking, you can throw it on your favorite pasta and use it right away, or you can let it completely cool down and store it to use it later. I threw it in a mason jar just to give it that sweet aesthetic look, and this makes quite a bit of tomato sauce, so you can let it completely cool down and freeze it and pull it out and use it whenever you like. And this is the perfect tomato sauce to use for pretty much whatever you want. You can use it for pasta, chicken parm, or meatball subs. It's really up to you. Whatever you decide to do, just enjoy. Alright, now that our tomato sauce is done, let's give it the old taste-a-roo. Our tomato sauce came out super tasty. It's got that nice, deep, rich tomato flavor to it. Then that onion and garlic shine through really well to give it a flavor profile. And that fresh basil adds that sweet basil-y flavor and adds some freshness and really brightens up the tomato sauce. Then the texture on it came out nice and thick. There's a few chunks of tomatoes in there, so you get the best of both worlds texture-wise. Then the acid level on it is nice and perfect. It's not too acidic. Then we get a little bit of natural sweetness from our tomatoes. Overall, this stuff is just super good and way better than that store-bought crap. Alright, that's it for today's video. This recipe is really easy. There's not a whole lot to it. All you need is some patience for this stuff to cook down, but in the end, it's totally worth it. You can use this tomato sauce to make spaghetti, or make meatball subs, or throw it on whatever else you like, or dip some fresh bread in it, which sounds super tasty right now. So hopefully you enjoyed today's video. Thanks for watching. And I gotta check my pantry to see if I got some pasta, because if not, I need to do a store run. So we'll see you in the next one. Tomato flavor, deep rich tomato flavor in my arm itches. Then that acidic level, or it's not too acidic. Get the best of both worlds. No. I gotta catch my breath. I don't know what to say. That's the problem. Pretty much whatever you want to throw meatballs on, no tomatoes on. It's tomato sauce. Alright, that's it for today's video. This recipe is really easy. There's not a whole lot to it. All you need is some patience for it to cook down. Drop the lens cap. You do this all the time, but it went way over there this time.